now that you know, you got to be so hyper aware of the message you deliver to people, you know, and make sure it's coming from that pure-hearted place, to make sure it's coming from, you know, an objective space where we're not influencing people to do something because they look so much up to you. Good, bad, breakthrough, holler back. It's episode 28. How do you feel? I feel great. Are you tired? Funny thing, I never get tired. And I will never die in a chair. Thank you, Jesse Itzler, owner of the Atlanta Hawks, for giving me that mindset training at your keynote when we were at the conference in Atlanta. It was phenomenal. You got your boy, Drew.
This is
That's right. Oh.
Sorry.
I'm Drea.
Hey, episode 28. So
Wait,
many resumes.
tell me about this chair thing first.
So Jesse Itzler, the owner of the Atlanta Hawks, is giving a keynote speech at a men's conference that I attended back in June. And this was a month after we had went on a family retreat for a leadership development conference. So Jesse Itzler is giving this speech, and I forget the name of the trainer, but he's trying to run a marathon. And he's only ever ran 35 miles. So Jesse goes out and gets this trainer. He needs to run this marathon. It's going to be 100 miles long. You know, he's never ran past 35 miles. And even his training, he never ran past 35 miles. But the trainer is like, hey, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to teach you 3 things. I'm going to ask you every day I train with you, how do you feel? And no matter how you feel, you're going to say, I feel fantastic. That was how do you feel? I feel fantastic. That's what it was. And then he was like, when I ask you if you're tired, I want you to respond. Funny thing, I never get tired. And then the third one was just know and understand that you will never die in a chair. And it's, you know, mindset training. And Jesse Itzler's on this run. He goes past 35 miles. He hits 40. He hits 45. And now, you know, he's getting hypothermia. He's got nails coming through his shoes. And his trainer's like, hey, how do you feel? And Jesse's like, I don't have space for you right now. Like, not now. Like, let's not do this while I feel like I'm going to die on this run. He's like, no, how do you feel? He's like, I feel fantastic. And then he was like, are you tired? And he was like, you know, funny thing, I never get tired. And that like revitalized him. So then he's on like 65, 75, 85. He gets to the 100th mile and he's crossing the finish line. He's like, hey, when they ask you, how do you feel? I want you to say, I feel fantastic. And when they ask you, are you tired? I want you to be like, funny thing, I never get tired. So sure enough, he crosses the finish line. They're like, oh my gosh, you did phenomenal. How do you feel? And he's like, I feel fantastic. And he's like, they're like, are you tired? And he's like, funny thing, I never get tired. And then he collapses. But he just told himself, like, you know, I'm not going to die in a chair. And it's fun. It's interesting because last week, Andrea knows this really well. I was playing basketball with one of my business partners and their son. And I took that mindset. And after 2 hours of basketball, I had cramps in my calves, my quadriceps, my hamstrings, my quads were pulsating. My calf was split in half. So it looked like muscle here, muscle here. My business partner had that Theragun out, getting all my legs and stuff. Every time I shot the ball, I caught a cramp. I got a bloody lip, which you can't see anymore because it was like a week and a half ago. But my guy elbowed me on my lip. So with cramps and a bloody lip, it's 19. I drive to the hole, fake left, go right, catch another cramp, and I hit the game-winning shot. But I told myself, like, I'm not going to die in a chair. Like, I'm not going to allow anything that I do in that moment physically to affect me. I'm gonna complete it. Now, some may take that and be like, oh, that wasn't healthy. I did all this extra stuff. You know, I shouldn't have done that. I was harming my body. But again, you know, I say this because from the last podcast, the transition, like, you first have to learn how to look at you. This is what I tell people. You first have to love yourself unconditionally. You have to learn how to do that. Then learning how to love others unconditionally. That's important to connect with people. Then you have to You have to learn how to connect with yourself by loving yourself unconditionally. Then you have to learn how to love others unconditionally and learn how to connect with them. And then you have to learn how to not give a people think about us or how they see us. When at the end of the day, it's just, hey, do we see ourselves this way? And if we don't, and it doesn't match our purpose or our mission, then we keep it going. We reposition people. I feel like I got on a little tangent. Y'all got me fired up. Oh, I love y'all so much, man. It's like y'all aren't my ladies, but like if I had to be like, if you're theirs or mine, I'd be like, yeah, those my peoples, those my ladies. You know what I'm saying? These are my $10 billion ladies here.
You knew what I was gonna say about that Jesse Itzler thing. Wait, did I say it Jesse Itzler?
Yeah.
Jesse? Yeah. I definitely think that it's important to take care of your body, to not cause yourself injury or harm. And I do understand the point though that you were making with that. And then also like another point to make is that there are multiple ways, right, to get to the basket. And that was one of the ways that you took, to get that game winning shot. So
by no means am I encouraging people to do that. You know what I mean? Or run until you have hypothermia. Like, that kind of contradicts physical wellness. But yeah, I appreciate that you said you understand the point of the conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the other thing I would just say was to the point about, just being people. We're humans, and the people who listen to the show are humans. And, I think that at the end of the day, like, yeah, those immediate feelings are the initial feelings, but then after they subside, then again, we come back to the true value and the mission of what we're doing here. And so at the end of the day, like, that's what I hold that to a high regard, what we do here on the show, the purpose for doing it, the sincerity that comes behind it. I think that the other thing I would say is that, yes, I do resonate. I do think I agree. And I believe that I am all of those things that you said about me. And there is also the part of me that don't play. There's a part of me that play, and there's that play, and there's a part of me that don't play. So just know that, like I said, we live in the and. Humans are the ands, like we're not or. There's not black and white. There's complexity to us as humans. And I think that I know Drea, she is amazing, sweet, kind, smart, talented, educated, and she also don't play. And I've had the privilege and the fear of being able to witness that. No, just kidding. I'm not kidding, y'all. I didn't know this girl since 6th grade. What can you expect? Okay, we have seen the multifacetedness of ourselves. Okay, so hopefully we don't project or portray ourselves as being people who got everything figured out, because we're not perfect. We not. And the same thing that make you laugh will make you cry. So that's something that I've learned and I resonate with.
When we talk about verbalizing things and in non-judgmental spaces, and even on the last pod when I was reflecting on how I find myself not only receiving information but then thinking about the reasons behind why I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about. There was a story I want to share. There was a guy at this gas station, and he was showing off his radio. He was showing off his horns, his sirens, put like 2 sirens on top, a couple of sound adjustments in the engine, and he's got a screen in his radio in his car, and he got some lights on the inside. And he was really proud of it. I'm like, man, like, that's so awesome. Like, I hope you're really proud of yourself. And I'm like, how long did it take you? And he was like, well, the radio was one of the biggest expenses that I had, you know. And he didn't say it verbatim like that. But long story short, he just said the radio costs a lot of money, so that's what took took so long for me to get. And then he goes, yeah, the radio was $900, and it took me about 3 years to pay it off. And in that moment, I was like, I didn't say it, but I'm thinking, damn, that's a long time to pay $900 in 36 months. But immediately in that moment of that thought, you know, we were transitioning on the IRC around, you know, thanks for showing me everything. I'm walking back from his car to my car at a gas station, and I'm like, Drew, like, why are you placing a value on how long it takes him to pay something off? Like, who am I to judge that? If that's the pace of life that he's living at, then meet him at that pace of life. You know what I mean? Just because I run fast and process, reflect, you know, just who am I to project that he is, you know, more or less than based on what he told me? And it was interesting because after that moment happened, it was like a week or two ago, you know, as I identified that I was thinking of placing judgment, people around me started talking about, you know, hey, I judge myself with my self-talk, and not only am I going down a negative self-talk path, but the reason I behave this way is because I'm heavily judging myself, this, and that. And it was just an interesting dynamic, you know, and learning how to be objective with with what you say and what you do. And like we said on the last pod, you know, you had mentioned about, you know, how we deliver information and how we receive information. Once you're so aware of that, you went through the love yourself unconditionally, connect with myself, love others unconditionally, connect with others, not care about how people, they think about me. It's my values, my beliefs. And then now in reflecting on all these moments, it then transcended me to start reflecting on my thoughts when I'm thinking them. So like the level of awareness, it's like I've now utilized the words like hyper aware, hyper focus. Like I put the hyper in front of it because once you become that hyper aware of your thoughts, now it's so critical. It's always critical for us to think about what we say before we do it. But once you're that hyper aware, it's so critical for you to, and Kina, you can probably talk on that from the mindfulness and everything you teach through Ruji Wellness. Now that you know, you got to be so hyper aware of the message you deliver to people, you know, and make sure it's coming from that pure hearted place, to make sure it's coming from, you know, an objective space where we're not influencing people to do something because they look so much up to you.
I know last week we were talking about projections, and I wanted to say this. I thought about this after the fact. I was like, you know, have y'all both seen The Matrix?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, I was thinking about this yesterday and today, both days. I don't know why it happened at the same exact time when I was driving and the same exact part of my route. But I remember in The Matrix where Neo was like, what are those? Why are those people looking at me? And Morpheus was like, those are projections. Do y'all remember that part? Those are your projections. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, is he talking about, are those a representation of like when we project? Because they were only looking at Neo because Neo was feeling insecure. He was feeling like he didn't feel like he belonged there. He didn't feel like he didn't feel solid and rooted in his actual power that he had. And so the projections were like aware of him. Like the more insecure he got, the more projections that came out and they also came at him. You know what I mean? He noticed them and then they noticed him, right? So I was thinking to myself, is that how projections work? And I know how projections work, but I'm trying to expand on it. Where let's say I'm like, how come, I don't know, like, I'm just going to say, for example, Andrew, how come every time you always have a plastic water bottle, right? I don't know. I'm just making something up. And so then it's like, I am aware of that plastic water bottle because of my own, like, maybe like insecurity or, feelings, my own feelings about, like the container that water is held in, because I have this here colorful one and yours is clear, right? So it might be something along the lines of, I'm aware of the differences of the things that are different mind or thought than mine. So I'm aware of them. And so I'm assigning rules to that. Does that make sense? Like I'm saying like, you must have that water bottle. Like I'm assigning like intentions to it, but I can't do that. You know what I mean? That's why it's a projection, because I'm using my imagination. When I tell people sometimes like that's your imagination, they're like, what? They've never heard that language before. When I tell them that's your imagination, and they seem offended because they're like, what are you talking about, my imagination? And I'm like, maybe they're offended because they forgot they had an imagination perhaps. But it's like, if you don't have like evidence or logic to stand on that, then it is your imagination that's assigning a meaning or an interpretation to that behavior or a pattern. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I love it. So Alicia from Fitchburg Farms developed this nugget. I'm going to give the $1 billion nugget out there on the podcast. The narrative that you create is the story you tell yourself. And you can take that and say the narrative they create is the story they tell themselves. So like, let's go to the water bottle, because it's meaningful and relevant.
Yeah, we got it right here.
Not saying that Kina does this, but if she could have gone down this path and says, hey, every time I've seen Andrew, he's got a plastic water bottle. He doesn't care about the universe. He doesn't care about Earth. He's doing it. You know what I mean? You could go down that path and assign a value to it based on what you see. And just like last podcast, conversations leading to choices leading to change. If you find yourself going down that narrative of imagination, this projection, you can stop yourself by simply asking. And if Kina was like, hey, yo, Drew, why you been having a plastic water bottle? Because she chose to have that conversation, then I can be like, Kina, I got an emotional support water bottle. It's just been in the back of my car, and I've been so busy. I feel lost without water. Water regrounds me. So because we got water bottles at home, I've now created a habit of, instead of just washing out my emotional support water bottle, of grabbing a bottle of water. You know what I mean? But then now, even though you use it as an example, what do you think I'm going to do when I get home? Because we had a conversation, now it leads to a choice. Now I'm aware. I'm like, damn, I need to get my emotional support water bottle, because Alicia from Fitchburg Farms bought it for me, right? And now conversation lead to choice. I make that choice. Now choices lead to change. Now I'm back on. So you unintentionally have helped hold me accountable to something that's already important to me just by giving the example. But you had the conversation, it led to a choice, and the choice led to a change. And I promise you, it might take next pod or the pod after, but then all you're going to see is an emotional support water bottle.
I was not thinking about your bottle. I was just using it for
I know. Because you use it as an example. But you know what? To give you credit, though, it was an example you used because it is near and dear to your heart. You know? And I'm not saying that you projected.
People always, because people always ask me, what's that moonshine? Because I have my mason jar that I usually drink out of, But right now I have this. But no, I'm glad that you're going to have your emotional. I don't even know what it looks like. So I'll be glad to see it, because I don't know what an emotional support water bottle even looks like.
Out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean? But you know what? This is a wonderful moment that I appreciate, that unintentionally you're holding me accountable to something that I so highly value. Even today, I was talking to Andrea about, when you move from one space to another, how do you reground yourself? And I've developed this habit behavior where I'm like, hey, what did I learn from the space that I was just in? Okay, how am I grounding myself? I'm going to drink water. Or I'm going to be outside. I'm going to walk for a minute. And then I'm going to do a kinesthetic dry off. Like, if I'm going to act as if everything is water on me, and I'm just going to dry off everything, all the feelings, all the emotions, all the knowledge. I'm going to dry it off and I'm going to leave it in that space. And then now I'm going to go to a different space and be what I want to be. Because I tell you what, I've been doing that for the last 2 or 3 days. Because most people feel like this and then they come home and they crash. And I've really been flying at a high level without that crash. And that's a whole nother conversation. How to reground yourself. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Good, bad breakthrough. Girl, I'm about to call you up for this pod, G.
Okay.
You could. Hey, why don't you do the shout out, Kina? Where can you find Good, Bad Breakthrough at? Episode 28. What
Episode
platform?
28, y'all. You got Kina, Drea, and Drew. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, Pocket Casts, and Audible. The video version of the show is available on YouTube, and the audio of this show is available on all of those platforms. Definitely give us 5 stars on whatever episode, rate, whatever subscription or platform you're listening on, and share it with somebody who you think could resonate or could learn from the information that we're sharing here with y'all today. Thanks, y'all, for listening. See you next time.